You're welcome back. This is Newsfile. It's your most authoritative news analysis platform. And here on Newsfile, as always, we put Ghana first. I'm Samson Ladi Anyanini, privileged to be hosting my very good friends. And here in the studio, Alexander Kwamina Afinyo-Marking, who is the majority leader in Parliament and Deputy Majority Leader in Parliament and MP Futu. Thank you for making the time.
Thank you, sir.
Maybe it's a prophecy.
That's all. Yes.
So Deputy Majority Leader. You know, before the leadership of Parliament was constituted, we sat here and we prophesied.
That's it.
And he's the Deputy Majority Leader. Also here in the studio is Martin Pebu. He's a rights activist and he is a lawyer. Joining us via Zoom. Martin, good morning.
Morning.
Right. Joining us via Zoom, Kofi Bento is a lawyer and Senior Vice President, Imani Africa. Also, Sami Jemfi is National Communications Officer, the National Democratic Congress, NDC. And Harry Yamson, fellow Solidar Ghana. And Solidar Ghana is a think tank dedicated to promoting left-of-center views on governance, pro-people policy, and efficient and effective policy implementation and evaluation. Thank you, gentlemen, for making the time to join us via Zoom.
Thank you, Samson, and good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. All right. So let's just take a little peek into a few of the developments in the course of the week. Things have happened rather very fast, leading to an eventual refund of the $2.4 million in respect of the controversial Sputnik V vaccine procurement. And the Minister, Koko Adjumani-Manu, has gotten a 2 weeks leave of absence. Let's watch and listen to these quickly and return to the studio.
We had a period in which we had gotten close to 1 million AstraZeneca vaccines, which had been sort of well administered and deployed, and had very little left. And then we had the second doses coming up. So we were really forced to look at, how to get some new doses into the system. And I think we agreed to 300,000 transaction in terms of Sputnik vaccines, which we did. And I think the Ministry of Health is looking at maybe another 1 million vaccines, but really that one is on condition that we don't get the AstraZeneca's or Johnson & Johnson or Pfizer in the interim period. I mean, what I have is 300,000 vaccines, Sputnik, that we have paid for, and then what I am reading in my agreement is to.
And that means that, as you're saying, you've so far only paid for 300,000 Sputnik vaccines through the Sheikh in Dubai, correct?
That's very correct.
But those are paid at a price of $19 per dose.
Right. We set up an LC to do that.
Let me confirm on good authority that indeed the payment has been made, the refund has been made. To me, the major concern of Ghanaians in all of these was possible financial loss to the state. The minister, like I said in my debate, was sincere and candid in everything he did. Information flowed to us, written evidence to us, and all of that. this goes to confirm that the minister did not lie when he said at all material times he knew he was dealing with a credible entity. And this flows from, one, the letter they wrote saying that they could not supply the rest, and the fact that they were willing to refund the unsupplied doses. Today, by the grace of God, the funds have fully landed in the account of Government of Ghana. People have had all the twists to this whole thing. The minister has been at the receiving end, because even statements of fact that he made, for some convenience, people decided to twist it. But this is public service. This is politics. But he's been firm and been consistent in everything regarding this whole situation. And today, we have the funds back. If you ask me whether or not the committee would have any further action to take, I would say no, because in our recommendation, we stated that he should take the Ministry of Finance should take steps to seek refund of the difference. But the Ministry of Health, rather, consistent with its earlier response to her, has been proactive in ensuring that it is done. And today, it closes the matter.
And all those things. And you see, no, it's not as if we don't know that they constitute criminal offenses. So we know, but we're just thinking that why don't you go first? Then let's have some sober reflections and see whether his plea that it was his quest to save lives that caused him to do what he did should be sufficient to stop a criminal prosecution, or we should go ahead. Because, Evans, look, the Financial Management Act has some new set of offenses. Apart from the conventional causing financial loss, even right now, if you sign a contract and that contract creates an obligation for government to pay money, that act alone. So that is when you don't follow due process and you sign the contract which commits government. That alone is an offense. So the perjury, the dossier is growing bigger by the day.
Oh, how is it growing bigger by the day, Martin?
It turned out that he was the one who approached the sheikh. I mean, that's the ministry. They approached the sheikh. Yeah, this man came out and said, it was the sheikh that approached the ministry. So one lie. Then another one, he stated that, he had tried government to government. So that is to say, to contact the Russian Foreign Ministry. It was when all his diligent efforts failed that he decided to deal with the Sheikh's office.
Minister of Health, and Minister of Health,
Right. So you have been listening to a number of people who have been speaking. You heard the President Akufo-Addo, making reference to the Minister of Health who has suffered. And like I mentioned earlier, well, he may have been making that in a certain, context as cracking a joke, but there are some who take exceptional exception to that because they say these are not matters that, should be used for, if you like, in saying things in jest. You heard the Finance Minister, Kenneth Ofori-Atta, who was the first you heard. He was giving an interview to a Norwegian journalist on the payments that have been made in respect of the contract. And this is the Norwegian journalist who brought things to the attention of this country, and journalists in this country also began to follow the issues, leading eventually to Parliament, an ad hoc committee being set up for investigations that led to the report that we presently have. You also heard Afeo Marking talking about the money that has been paid back. Then you heard Martin Pebu also speaking about the fact that the payments must not be the end to the issue. So what? Let me begin with, let me get Kofi Bento. For these gentlemen who are sitting right by me, we have heard them over and again, but they obviously would speak today in a way that may be a bit different from what you have heard them before. Kofi, I read your message that you shared with us on the show last week. And as far as you are concerned, this was a very clear case where the minister shouldn't be allowed to continue to be in office. Having followed what has gone on so far and the fact that the money has been refunded, what will you be saying? And this is what you said in your text, which we shared with our viewers the last time. You said, number one, he must be made to return the money. Of course, that was the central recommendation by the committee. Number two, he must be made to face the law in Parliament for perjury and also criminally for causing financial loss and breaching procurement law. And three, he must be sacked. This is not his first procurement scandal. There are others, such as snake serum and medical software running into about 100 million. If we can't deal with such open breaches, we will collapse this nation.
Yeah, Samson, so all that is still true. Let me just put it this way again. If the minister is subject to the laws of Ghana, he will not be home. Samson, if you and I took 50,000 cedis of government money and treated it this way and broke all the rules, we will not be home. This is not about the person of the minister. This is about building a nation. Samson, I believe you are alive. I was clearly alive when President Rawlings, as a young man, slim young man, angry young man, got a couple of other young men and overthrew the government of this country. And all he said was that the leaders of this country were ripping it apart. Samson, people were shot in this country for far less. I am not asking for us to do that. I was part of the struggle that brought us back this constitution. 1991, I remember all the things. And before me, there were fighters, a Dubois in culture of silence. What I want to say is that we have gone through a history to come where we are and to establish the rule of law and constitutional governance. But we have, over the past 20-something years, slipped into situations worse than what we used to experience, which is why I made the point that if we can't deal with blatant open breaches of law, and we clearly are running a country where there are two sets of laws. There are ordinary people's law and there is powerful people's law. And there are people in jail today for doing far less. If the law, the procurement law, if the establishment of the special prosecutor, and we went through all of this, and this is exactly the reason why we put up all these arguments and went through years of work to establish the special prosecutor. The point was that sometimes you have people committing crimes in office and the AG is not able to bring them to law because he is part of a cabinet where the other people also are, and the malfeasance goes unpunished. And it creates a situation where these things repeat themselves. Samson, you remember work we did on Occupy Flagstaff House, work we did establishing Occupy Ghana, work we did with the Auditor General, establishing the rules on surcharge and disallowance, going to court, still trying to tighten this thing. Samson, God has saved this country many times from all kinds of situations, because some of the places that we get to, people don't get there and they end up in civil wars. So I am not saying this is about one person. It is about whether we as a country want to have a country where everybody is subject to the law and we are going to be honest about these things, okay? And then also we are going to have a situation where people think twice before they take people's money and use them anyhow, right? I believe Afenyo Markin if he says that the money has been returned, but I have no evidence of that. And if in this same situation, people told us things that were lies, clear, proven lies, who has the proof that this money has been returned? And I'm saying it may have been returned, but I won't be surprised if it turns out it has not been returned. So I worry about what we are trying to do in trying to create a situation where some people are clearly above the law. And you know, it's not again like somebody wants somebody to be punished, but when these things are taken as a joke, all right, I'm telling you, there is anger out there. There is anger out there. Wyoming has walked free with our money.
Right.
Okay. And now, anytime I hear Wyoming, they say, Wyoming is 51 million. 51 million is just about $10 million. Then they start citing things. We are running into hundreds of millions of dollars. Okay. Under this situation. So are we building a nation or what are we trying to do?
Yeah.
So look, I worry about these things and I ask myself, have we achieved anything at all? And then I ask myself, there is a generation that does not appreciate what we went through to restore constitutional democracy. There is a generation that did not see people stripped naked and whipped in the streets. There's a generation that does not understand what it means when people's fathers were picked from home and they didn't return. There's a generation that does not understand how people were tied to stakes and shot. I lived 100 meters from former Dr. Buzier's house, and they put commandos there. And every week you will hear gunshots. They constituted themselves into a court. They could do whatever they wanted. Nobody could do anything about them. We came very close to civil wars in this country. It is the grace of God that caused some of these coups and things that were tried, not to succeed. And in one case, they succeeded. They took over the broadcasting house.
So whilst
my point is, let me learn. My point is that we need to be careful because democracies are fragile things. And when we go on these tangents, we give some people a lot of energy to overthrow what we have now. That is the way I'm looking at this.
So everybody may have one concern or the other, looking at issues generally. I started with my take, looking at a few things around in the course of the week and asking a number of questions about them because I get worried myself. Where I mentioned these guys who are going to jail for 15 years for stealing a mobile phone and 50 Ghana cedis. Yes, they'll be in jail and they'll rot in there. Well, a politician may steal millions, and then when they are locked up, if they happen to be locked up, they may get presidential pardon. They get out of jail. But is it right to generalize this issue? To put this issue in that general picture as you have just done? Can this issue not be isolated and look at it for what it is? That there is no proof or evidence of any wrong motive or, as it were, corrupt motive. And in the end, like Afenyo Markin has been saying in the course of this week, the money is back in chest to chest. So what's the big deal?
The big deal is that when you ask for proof of motive, it is not required in this situation. There has been actus reus, actions. And you ask what else is required. You have a situation where there was a mens rea, clearly seen in terms of a mindset, because the gentleman went to Parliament, swore an oath, and then said things that he knew were not true. The gentleman is an accountant, and you know that when you are of a certain standard where you are expected to know more, you are not given the excuse or even any benefit that will come from doubt. He knows the rules. He's been chairman of Parliament Accounts Committee. So he knows about processes we have to go into. He knows the laws going through this. And an emergency like COVID does not immobilize those rules. And indeed, there were sufficient arrangements around this by which he could have gotten what he wanted without breaking a rule. Samson, if you are asked, which rule was not broken in this situation? All of them. So my question will be, under what do we make an exception to this? And then I'll say again, this is exactly the textbook case and had the special prosecutor. This is exactly the reason why we were pushed by the development partners to institute our law against causing financial loss. And there have been amendments to that law. We have a situation now where we are charging people for Sagleme, and there are other charges on the books. And anybody can look at the two situations and ask, where is the difference? So again, my issue is not with the specific person and trying to seek to do anything, to him or anything. I worry about whether we are building a country where the rule of law applies to everybody. And I also worry about people who subsequently feel emboldened and not feel any risk to take our money and treat it anyhow.
There are other citizens who think like the finance minister thinks, like Afenyo will think. There are other citizens, and the journalists have spoken to them. They have spoken, through the media to all of us to hear. There are others who say, they may be in the minority from what we have heard, but they say, is it not worth it? Is it not something worth counting on? That in situations where you would have seen some politicians lie, of course, we have seen too many of those situations. They just lie, barefaced lie. They tell it, even under committees. But in this case, he was contrite at heart. He pleaded. He said, look, I got it wrong here, but it won't happen again. Please forgive me. Some say, like, Jesus said when they brought the woman before him and accused her of, adultery, says, if you can't, throw the stone, if you think you are right. So some are saying that and asking, who doesn't make mistakes? He makes mistakes, he admits them. Why are we saying he should be crucified? What do you say to those people?
Well, I'll say that I also feel the same way. We all make mistakes. There are mistakes and there are mistakes. And when you make a mistake, as in, I did not know, and I didn't do this, it happened and it was fortuitous, I couldn't have controlled it. That is one kind of mistake. Another one is only called a mistake when you sign a piece of paper and the facts on which you sign them are clear. Clearly you knew what you had done. And then you come around and say, I never did this. When you actually commit and pay state funds, and then you come around and say, I did not pay it. Okay, when you claim that I tried to reach the government and I was not successful, but it turns out that you never tried to reach any government and that you went straight and bought this thing from that person. It is a mistake when you go to the right place and you are scammed. It is not a mistake when you go to somebody who has had a history of underhand dealings and has an international reputation of that, to try and buy something they don't deal in, that is vaccines. Okay, it is not a mistake. Okay, to be dealing with these shady characters, to be dealing in these kinds of ways, it is not a mistake to be pretending you don't know laws that you have presided over as the chairman. So again, respectfully, those rules will not apply. You and I go to court and we see situations where people are, mistaken in law. And we say ignorance of the law is not an excuse. You know the cases where people are mistaken in terms of their knowledge of whether the act is a crime or not, the Nyamindwa case, and they are let off on those legal technicalities, I would be absolutely prepared to let all this slide on those technicalities. None of that is present here. On the other side, you see direct acts which were premeditated and gone into. And if we all were not screaming and shouting, you don't know what would have happened with this thing. And we may not have gotten our money back. My worry is that, look, we are just going to talk about Saglemi. We have forgotten about Woyome. There are many other cases I could go through. Okay, when is this going to stop? And that's why I started by saying that if we are not careful, there is a whole generation that does not understand where we came from to establish this democracy. If we are not careful, we will break it. And that's what I worry about.
Right. Actually, there have been some people who have been getting to me and telling me that the media needs to pay attention to our debt burden as a country. And the debt is getting worse by the day. And they say we should, sort of reduce a bit of the attention to the political issues and get to the debt. Because, and I had one example that was being shown me, like Ghana is, how old is Ghana? So you take Ghana to be an old woman who at that age is suffering. And yet, instead of her suffering being lessened all the time, we are piling the suffering on this old lady. The question is there financial loss? And you spoke about, and people have spoken about perjury. Initially, my understanding of, to say that to the best of my knowledge, I understood that in my English lessons to mean that when you say to the best of your knowledge, it means you have done some investigation and you have come to a conclusive point that the matter you are talking about is what you say it is. Then I decided to look it up in the Merriam-Webster dictionary and others, and it says that while my understanding will be correct, it gives room for the possibility of error in, the way I think. Did he actually commit perjury in the circumstances where to say to the best of his knowledge and to use to the best of your knowledge will mean that a person thinks something is true, but there may be something he or she does not know, which makes that thing he thinks is true to be untrue, to the best of his knowledge?
I will be prepared to grant him all the reliefs that those concepts offer. But I do believe that if we did that, it will still be a problem, because here you have somebody who is extremely well educated, extremely well experienced in these areas, okay, who actually puts pen to paper and signs. It wasn't signed on his behalf. Who actually entered a negotiation with persons of questionable character. It was not done beside him. Who actually did not involve the other technical persons in his ministry who he has to involve. Who did not seek cabinet approval prior to what he did. Who knows about the procurement laws and did not. Samson, I have said and I'll repeat, an event can be ignored, but no wise person ignores a trend. You see a clear line of escaping and avoiding and running around the rules, the laws, and clearly there was a design to this. So if you say, oh, maybe he did something 3 years ago and may have forgotten about it, there may be some room. But under this circumstance, Samson, I don't know who will be guilty of just taking government money, wasting, spending, losing it, if we don't have any kind of questions to ask the honorable gentleman. And I worry about what that means for our future. Okay. And like I've said, we've gone through all kinds of institutions and laws and things just trying to save poor people's money.
Right.
And we don't seem to be succeeding.
Okay. Hold on for me quickly, and then I'm coming to Martin. Martin, take us through, and I want Afenyo sort of to speak after hearing all of you. Take us through isolating the issues which, in your view, in your professional view, must get this minister to answer in the manner you are asking. In fact, there are those who say he should resign are actually giving him a pat on the back. Because there's the effect of resignation is not the same as being sacked. And there are those who insist that he ought to be sacked. Rather, already now questions are being asked about this president and the government, whether it is actually doing good governance in this respect. So isolate the issues and tell us why he must be hanged, rather than allow him to go take a 2 weeks break and return refreshed, repentant, to do another job. And this job is a very difficult one to do. The questions I was posing to Kofi Bento, I'm getting messages already suggesting where am I coming from, trying to influence the view that he deserves compassion. You must know the job we do. I must reflect both sides of the coin, particularly where we are almost binary. So, yes.
Okay, Sam, may I make a request that we play back the answer in Parliament with the proceedings as I go along? It will be very, very useful.
Okay.
There's something I've
so
noticed.
let me inform production. Please get Mr. Kwekwajiman Menu's clip where he was asked the question directly, whether or not payment has been made. Is that not the question?
Yeah.
Whether or not payment has been made, and his response. Please look for it. Martin needs it. Please continue while they look for it.
So to put this matter in perspective, before this matter came up, this Sputnik saga, before that, of course, we all know that Mr. Ajimamenu had been in office, okay? And he had had at least 2 other brushes with the law in respect of procurement issues. 2 other brushes. One, you know the anti-snake venom matter. It went to the PPA. Mr. Ajimamenu was found culpable. So this is not the first time that Mr. Ajimamenu is being involved in procurement breaches. This anti-snake venom matter is there. Then you come to 2, the Frontiers contract, that's the testing at the airport. At his vetting, when he was asked, he said he doesn't know about it. Testing, COVID-19 testing at the airport. The minister says he doesn't know. So fast forward, then we come here. And of course, we will not forget the fact that he had been in public office, chairman of the Public Accounts Committee and everything.
Several other ministers didn't know. It was the airport company that gave the information about what it really was it not?
Yes, but you see, this is COVID-19 and the Ministry of Health. It beggars belief that the minister, substantive minister for health, is COVID, though, not any other matter. It's not as if they are checking the agric products, you know, when you want to take agricultural products in and out and all that. They are talking about COVID, which is very much in line with his mandate. Okay, so now you come here about the perjury. Now, the thing is that, you see, as a minister, when you appear before the committee, the first point I'm making is that they had made a request for payment of cash to the sheikh, long before the minister came to Parliament. Yet this minister chose not to reveal it. They had made that payment. And you know what? It was after his testimony, the committee was so unconvinced. Members, especially on the minority, they did a good job in respect of this particular matter. They were unconvinced about this lack of payment. So together as a body, they agreed, they convinced majority that let's write to the Ministry of Finance and Bank of Ghana. So let's look at page 21 of the report. That's the ad hoc committee.
Martin, if you can take away minority conveys majority, deal with the issue.
Oh, I've asked people personally,
what
it's
saying,
good.
Please,
it's because you have personally come to defend the minister.
Martin,
so let me isolate.
Martin, with respect, I want us to have a good conversation.
Yeah, so you can't direct me how to go about it. Please,
because this is how committees work.
With due respect.
You can't say the minority conveys majority on the committee.
Yes.
We did everything by consensus. So please, make the point. But when you go in a certain tangent, we can't help it. Because no, then I would stop you from there.
Okay, you can't stop
you don't have evidence to that.
Your mouth
no.
Me.
It has to be fair.
Yes.
You see, the basis of any conversation there must be fair. Don't say minority convinced. We worked as a consensus. You don't have evidence of
even though it is your report, it is your report he's speaking to. You can see that yourself, you have annotated your own report.
No,
so what I beg of you,
I will not.
Yes.
Something.
You see what you have done so far.
I will not.
Please keep your cool. Let him finish.
But
you are here and you will react.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Let's deal with the issue.
So please take note. Please don't forget your line of thought. Please proceed.
Yes.
Proceed.
Okay. So let's not forget, the minister came to Parliament on the 15th of July. So let's take notice of that. 15th July. That was when he came to Parliament, the first day, to give evidence. 15th July. Now, because the committee was unconvinced, they wrote to the Finance Ministry to find out. And the Finance Ministry, by letter dated 26th of July, then informed the committee that they had made that payment. So page 21, it says, the Ministry of Finance received a request from the Ministry of Health in respect of the purchase of Sputnik V COVID-19 vaccines, blah, blah, blah. Okay. The request from the Ministry of Health was dated 10th March and received at the Ministry of Health on 11th. Then they go on. So, this payment, okay, then you would go on. So, the point is that it was through, and then the Bank of Ghana, Bank of Ghana, sorry.
It's okay, go on.
Bank of Ghana is also page 21. So, Bank of Ghana indicates that, according to the Bank of Ghana, in its letter of 31st March, blah, blah, out of the total amount of 5.7 owed to the Sheikh, an amount of 2,850,000, representing 50%, had been paid to him. Yes. So the thing is that my first point on this matter is that these payments were made. The minister knew same and yet suppressed that evidence. Because, you see, to make this payment, please, let's put emphasis on this. No payment will be made without a request. You see, going by the Public Financial Management Act, there has to be a request for release of funds from the ministry. Then let's narrow it down. In that ministry, by the Public Financial Management Act, the account that you see, the account holder, who is the account holder of the ministry, is the minister. So he superintends over the account. And you want to tell me that chief director can sit in his office and issue instructions that money be paid without telling the account? The chief director is not the account holder.
That's not possible.
That's not possible. Yeah. So you see where the noose is tightening around Mr. Jumamenu's neck. It's about to just kill him. Because the only instance in which chief director will write to another minister is with the express instructions and approval of his minister. Because ordinarily in the civil service, monkeys play by sizes. The chief director cannot by himself write to the finance minister.
The chief director will in fact not dare.
Exactly, that. Thank you. So you see that's Ajimamenu's hands. And you dare come to Parliament and deceive. He says, to the best of my knowledge. Oh my God, look, this thing nails him. After making the request for payment, now that we've said that, look, two things. Mr. Ajimamenu signed it. If he didn't sign, the chief director can only sign with his express instructions and to be so stated on the letter. Sam, does it surprise you that so far nobody is putting out that letter? Honorable, do you have that letter requesting that the money be paid? Do you have it?
When I get my turn, I will provide all of that for you.
You see, so far.
We have
But I can tell you on authority, it was never brought to your committee. Never.
Okay, you finish.
Never brought to your committee. I mean, you can contradict me straight if it was brought to your committee. Your things have exhibits.
If it was brought to their committee, if it was brought to their committee, they could not have made the conclusions they made.
But that's the thing.
It would be absurd for them to have made the conclusions they made.
That should bring what is exhibit number.
Okay, so you are still developing that point.
Yes,
but let's play the answer you asked for. Let's play it and then you continue. Yes, let's hear Mr. Koko Agyemang-Menu, the Minister of Health, presently on leave for 2 weeks, and when he appeared before Parliament's ad hoc committee and was asked the direct question whether or not payment for the Sputnik V vaccines had been made. This was his response.
We have been pressurizing them to give us the vaccines to no serious avail. And then yesterday, they said us, actually they gave us verbal invitation, verbal notice that they will not be able to supply any longer. And so we requested, they then terminate the agreement, which they had actually done. So as we sit here, I believe there's no contract between the two of us.
So, Honorable Minister, what becomes of the payment you've made so far, if any?
Honorable Chair, to the best of my knowledge, we haven't done any payment as yet.
But when you issue an LC, it's an instrument of payment. And I don't know, I've read the LC, its site, but partial performance is allowed. They can draw on whatever that they've supplied. And then the rest of the instruments...
Honorable Chair, this LC was done on site. They cannot draw until we inform the bank that we have received, which we haven't done as yet.
So what becomes of the 20,000 that they supplied you?
We're going to re-engage after they have actually terminated the contract. The initial 300,000 was going to be short supplied by 20,000, and that is how we captured it. So understanding between the two parties.
Good, thank you.
All right.
So you see, the point I want to make, develop from it, so as we go on is that, so you see that he says they are now going to engage to pay for the 20,000. Now going to engage to pay for the 20,000.
No, let's play it again.
Oh.
Play it again. Please, just to be fair, because we're all going to refer to it. You are quoting his word.
Please, let's get towards the end where he says the initial 20,000, you know, they were supposed to supply 300. He says the initial 20,000 was going to be, he says something, either subtracted or something from the 20,000 that was supplied. Let's hear him again, just towards the end of it.
Minister, what becomes of the payment you've made so far, if any?
Honorable Chair, to the best of my knowledge, we haven't done any payment as yet.
But when you issue an LC, it's an instrument of payment. And I don't know, I've read the LC, its site, but partial performance is allowed. They can draw on whatever that they've supplied. And then the rest of the instruments...
Honorable Chair, this LC was done on site. They cannot draw until we inform the bank that we have received, which we haven't done as yet.
So what becomes of the 20,000 that they supplied you?
We're going to re-engage after they have actually terminated the contract. The initial 300,000 was going to be short supplied by 20,000, and that is how we captured it. So understanding between the two parties.
So please wait.
After
they've terminated. He never said payment. You said he said payment.
Yes.
He said they're going to re-engage over what?
No, but let's quote him.
Yes, so I'm asking you, what's your understanding?
He said that they are going to re-engage after they have terminated.
Re-engage over what?
No, but we just rely on his word.
You were asking
he said payment.
Yes. You have a better understanding. Please, let's take this posture.
Let him finish.
I'm seeking information.
Let him finish.
Martin, I'm seeking information.
Right.
You were the one interrogating him. You were asking him the questions. You asked him what happens to the payment. That was conclusive to say that you know the payment had been made. And I know as a lawyer of your caliber that you won't ask that question unless you know the answer, as we do in cross-examination. So you say that it's been paid. He says, no, to the best of my knowledge, payment has not been done. Then you tell him about the LC that you have. Then he tells you that it will not be paid unless they have. So, in fact, if you still rely on his to the best of my knowledge, you'll be wrong. Because he has moved from to the best of my knowledge to say emphatically that unless we have ordered the payment, it will not be paid. And we have not ordered payment. Then you proceed further, ask, so what happens next? Then he says they will have to re-engage.
Excellent.
What's your understanding of the re-engagement?
Samson, first, I thank you for the opportunity, the platform.
No, you start yours soon. Martin hasn't finished.
Because, you see, the question was predicated on an earlier answer regarding payment through LC. And I have page 22 of 219 of the transcript. It flows from his answer. I asked him about the letters of credit, the payment that had been made. And then flowing from that, I asked about the LC. If you listen to him, he responded by saying that the LC has not been cashed yet because no payment, no supply has been made.
Yeah. He was emphatic about
Good.
it.
Then I asked him about the 20,000 that has been supplied, and he said that they're going to engage. We didn't come back specifically on what he meant by re-engagement as they have terminated the contract. Because he said the people have terminated the contract. I asked, okay, so they've given you 20,000. He said, we're going to re-engage. We did not go further to establish the re-engagement he's referring to in respect of the doses that have been supplied.
In this transcript,
transcript. I've printed and touched.
What is the question you ask again that brought the re-engagement?
It's here.
Yes, what did you say?
He said, Mr. Chairman, to the best of my knowledge, we have not done the payment yet. Right. Referring to the LC. Right. Then he came to explain again what he meant by
the question you asked before he explained.
Well, this is my question. Honorable Minister, so what becomes of the payment you have made so far?
Right.
That is predicated on the LC.
That's right.
Yeah. Oh, please.
You go ahead.
This is what he has said. He explained to, and after his explanation, let's read it here.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, if that is implicated, that is so, they are not just terminating yesterday. After we have signed the contract, they gave us 2 weeks to supply the first 300,000 we ordered, based on our ability to give them letters of credit as part of the terms of the agreement. Our letters of credit delayed and got them some time, and then they came back after they have confirmed that they had run out of stock, blah, blah, blah. After 2 weeks, we inquired, and they said still not got the supply, and so we started engaging them that if that is the matter, they should permit us amicably to withdraw from the contract so that we can do something different to get the vaccines. And so we continuously started putting pressure on them, and they gave us July. And it is like we've been pressuring them to give us the vaccines to no avail. He had confirmed that eventually they had established the LC. So, once he said they had terminated, then I asked him about the question of the LC. Because you see, the LC was in two parts. And deferred, if you look at the contract, they're talking about site LC. And that is what my colleague from Ashama even referred to in his question. That in the contract, there is a LC as site and a deferred LC. So I wanted a clarification from him. If you have issued the LC as site, are you as a down payment? My understanding of these instruments of payment, you would have to present documentation that you've actually shipped, and then you can draw on it. So I wanted a clarification. The payment you've made in respect of the LC, he now came back to say, by explaining further, that yes, The LC has not been drawn. And this was his answer to my question. Mr. Chair, the letter of credit was done on site. They cannot draw until we inform the bank that we have received, which we have not yet so done. These were his words. All right? Now, I would allow him to finish his point. I would take you through all the evidence and every single thing the man gave us for the people of Ghana to make their judgment. We have our report.
But permit me to just read that last, so that you don't forget, and then finish your point.
Yes.
So, Mr. Markin asked him the question again. So what becomes of the 20,000 that they supplied you? Then his answer was, we are going to re-engage after they have actually terminated the contract. The initial 300 was going to be short supplied by 20,000, and that is how we captured it. So there was an understanding between the two parties. So now they have terminated. We are now going to look at how we are going to pay for this one.
Oh, you see, Sam.
So go on.
We are now going to see.
Go on.
You see? Meanwhile, by then, he had this letter issued for release of funds.
You go make your point.
10th March. That letter is 10th March. The minister came to Parliament 15th July. He brought you LC, but he didn't bother to bring you this letter.
So this interview didn't capture the final part of the answer, but the transcript captures the final part of the answer, which to me appears to contradict the meaning that Mr. Afenyo-Markin was trying to put on it.
That's correct.
Because in the conclusion, he was specific that they were now going to re-engage on how to pay for the 20,000 that has been supplied.
Excellent. Which shows a blatant lie, with due respect. You see, blatant lie. You see, Honorable was going to cover up for him. If you hadn't read it, you're just going to cover up again. So the point is that, look, this is a context. Vaccines in short supply. You can't be a serious buyer when you don't have money. And this minister is having us believe that the sheikh didn't have the money. So on what basis was he calling the sheikh that, please, bring vaccines, when the sheikh hadn't received money? Quite clear. That was a lie. So for me, once he didn't make much, he didn't disclose that he had asked that cash be paid. Cash be paid. And the cash was paid on 13th April. 13th April. And it was this cash that then gave him the bargaining power to make a demand for the vaccines. Because, I mean, who born dog? Can you ask for vaccines when you've not paid? When the vaccine is in such a short supply? Can you imagine? It's just, look, all of this just shows that the minister was just not being candid with the committee. And that's why I keep saying that Article 122 and then Section 29 of the Parliament Act says that when you expressly lie or even you give an incomplete answer, it is perjury. It is perjury because without your payment, you couldn't be accessed.
So you are saying about 4 months after he ensures payment has been done,
excellent,
he's in Parliament saying, to the best of his knowledge, no payment has been done.
Excellent, and that's what.
And he's asked further questions, and he actually confirms. Afenyo-Markin is asking him the question, and he is trying to explain to Afenyo-Markin, suggesting that Afenyo-Markin didn't know exactly what he was about.
Excellent.
Then he says, they cannot be paid because we have not authorized the payment.
Excellent, and that we will go and engage them subsequently. You see it? So point number 2, another leg of the perjury. The minister came to Parliament with an exhibit. Let me not forget, please. Before he came to Parliament, he brought a written response. He brought a written response to Parliament dated 14th July. 14th July. I asked for it to be printed. 14th July, where he answered categorically that no payment has been made. He has a letter his written response. Honorable, can I read from that one, since you have had copies here?
Which one?
The written response. Before he came, he has a letter dated 14th July.
Yes. Okay. It's not in controversy.
Yes.
So
he says no payment. No caveat.
Read.
No caveat at all. So this is the minister, he signs it. No caveat. Actually, I'm getting you see, I wish you could get more of the tape, because I'm getting the impression that this, to the best of my knowledge, even came from somewhere. I wish the tape would show. Anyway, but for now, look at it. Any payment made so far says none. Yes, good. That's 6. Evidence of payment and payments instruments for the transactions. Answer: no payment made under agreement with the private office of His Highness Sheikh Ahmed Dalmouk Al Maktoum. Please look at it, page 3. It's the minister who signed, he himself, Kweku Ajiman Menu, page 3. Before he came to testify, he was asked to do a written response. This is 14th July. You see, there's no caveat. This, to the best of his knowledge, I wish you could play it slow. It came from somewhere. Before he then had to seek, but it's too late. Look, Act 300 says that if you lie or give incomplete answer, it's still perjury. Look at it. No payment made, no caveat whatsoever. No caveat.
And this is his own signed statement.
Yes, and you know that before you even sign things like this, Abey, as minister, you won't have anybody check. Do you take Parliament serious if you just sit in your office and write anything without checking? I mean, how can this?
So as far as you are concerned, there's no negotiation about the perjury?
No, there's not. Look at it. This is his own statement. Please, he signed. Sam, can we show it to viewers? Maybe let this is capture it. Is that not his signature?
Yeah, he signed
says no payment.
Right.
That's it there.
Okay.
No payment.
Okay.
Then come to the second leg. He said he brought a letter to Parliament, this same perjury, that the Sheikh, he asked the Sheikh to withdraw, and the Sheikh amicably withdrew. Do we have that? Now, you check from the letter from the ministry's lawyer to the Sheikh's office. The Sheikh's office responds on 25th July that they will only refund the money when they receive notice of termination. Notice of termination. So what becomes of the letter that the minister took to Parliament that the Sheikh has withdrawn? Honorable, do you have that one too?
No, make your point.
Yes,
so
the point is that he comes to Parliament with a letter on the 15th of July, his exhibits that, here, the Sheikh has withdrawn. That's 15th July. But 25th July, the response from the Sheikh's office to him, of course, through his lawyer, is that I will refund your money when I receive notice of termination. So it means that the agreement for the Sheikh, the agreement is still in force. Yet you say the Sheikh has terminated. You've come to show us a letter where the Sheikh has terminated. It's beginning to look like Mr. Ajimamenu is taking the bullet for somebody, at least. I mean, another part of it. Because it just doesn't add up. It looks like when we catch them here, then they try to contrive another lie. You catch them here, then they try to contrive another one. I mean, because it just doesn't make sense.
Okay, hold it on there. Having heard what you have heard from Kofi Bento and Martin, who dives into the specifics with the dates in the manner he has done, do you still stand by your view that for as long as your committee did not recommend sanctions against, consideration of sanctions against the minister personally, he has done nothing wrong, despite the fact that you found that he ignored the Attorney General's advice, which should have gone to Parliament, all of that. You said that if he had brought it, you would have done it very quick for him under certificate of urgency. And the PPA too was not followed through. And even though it was before the PPA for ratification, that had also not been secured yet.
All right, Samson. You see, if people disjoint the facts, obviously they would draw a certain conclusion and poison the minds of people. I have stated that throughout the hearing, the man was candid. Any information we needed, he gave us. and I'll demonstrate that proof to you. When we listened to him on the 15th of July, after we had closed, he indicated that he would do some checks and get back to us with some more information. On the 3rd of August 2021, this letter was addressed to the committee and is part of our records. This is what the letter says, addressed to the committee clerk. Submission of further information to ad hoc committee on procurement of Sputnik vaccines. I am directed to inform you that subsequent to the last appearance of the Honorable Minister for Health with his technical team before your Honorable Committee, some new information has come to the notice of the Ministry of Health that some funds have been transferred by GOG to the private office of Sheikh Damouk Al Maktoum in respect of the agreement for the supply of the Sputnik vaccines. We are therefore forwarding the following document for your kind consideration to that effect. 1. Letter from Controller to Bank of Ghana for the telegraphic transfer. 2. Bank of Ghana foreign exchange transfer instructions. 3. Bank of Ghana notice of transfer of funds from the government of Ghana to private office of Maktoum. And then email correspondence between the Ministry of Health and the private office of Sheikh Maktoum in respect of inquiry of the transfer of funds dated 21st of July 2021. Now, I need to first make the point that it is not true that government of Ghana terminated the contract. There's an official letter which is dated 14th of July, which letter the minister submitted to us per exhibit MOH8 to the effect that Maktoum has offered to terminate. And he had indicated that again in his earlier testimony to us, that indeed there was this back and forth, and they had indicated that they could not supply. So if you rely on only the email, and this email that they attached, and you see, when I say he was transparent, if he wanted to hide anything from us, he would not give us even telegraphic transfers.
Because emails. His cover had already been blown. Honorable, he did that because his cover had been blown. Bank of Ghana informed you well ahead. His letter is what? 3rd August. Please. When did you get from Bank of Ghana?
Martin.
Bank of Ghana had already informed you.
Martin, the letter from the ministry, you see, take your time and get the facts. I mean, I don't want us to have an unhealthy banter. You know, I respect you and you respect me. Let me get you the facts. You see, his letter to the inquiry that he made preceded our letter to the finance ministry. If you say the finance ministry had responded to us and his cover had been blown, that is why he was now telling us the truth, I'll tell you that is not true. The letter is here. Letter to the Ministry of Finance. They responded to us dated 26th. We wrote to them 23rd. Their letter, the email is here. The email is dated 21st.
When did they bring it?
I'm saying that
the letter is what? 3rd August.
Wait, you see.
Okay, if you are asking him directly, he'll be responding. Please don't.
This letter, at the time that the ministry, they delivered it to the mail room. If you have access to my colleagues on the other side, it took us time to get this letter. At the time we got this letter, they had already given us the response. And if you look at the
response is 3rd August. Please.
This is his covering letter. We are gone on a weekend. Take your time.
August.
Martin, if you decide to go about this way, you embarrass yourself at one point. Wait, the letter is the covering letter to us. Bear in mind that the man has written to Maktoum to confirm. It is here.
So when did they come to you? The covering letter is dated when? 3rd August. Is that not when it came to you? But then you already had the information.
In one breath, you said that because we had received, that is when he went to do the inquiry.
Yes,
that's what you said. But that is not true.
26th July.
No, that is not true. You are saying that.
Bank of Ghana.
Listen, you see, Martin. If you don't take your time, but I'm answering you. You said that upon receipt of this on the 26th, and he now did his inquiry on the 3rd and wrote to us. And I'm saying no. Proud to the writing of our letter to finance ministry, the man had already written for the confirmation of the exact amount. Bear in mind that we only wrote to the ministry because at the mid-year review, there were some figures in the mid-year review budget about releases. And as a committee, we sat in conclave and said, look, we want clarity. Releases may not amount to actual payment. So let us write then to the ministry again. Then we asked the minister, the inquiry that you were supposed to make, where is the response? He brought it. If you look at the date, they even apologized for their late response. This is what they said. Thank you for your email. Apologies for the late response as we were on Eid holidays. Please note our response below in red. And then they go on and on. The very same document that you were referring to, which document talks about the formal request for refund. I am saying that if they made a mistake in saying that make a formal request, not on termination, because they had already written to them on the 14th of July, saying clearly, this is what they say. In the interim, if government of Ghana wishes to source vaccines from other supply, until this issue is resolved, we are ready to cooperate with government to meet the country's requirement. Given our cordial relationship with the government, we wish to terminate the vaccine supply agreement. We hope that when the supplies are restored, we'll be able to re-engage on new terms and follow due process for that purpose. We look forward to continuing to work closely with government to further enhance the bilateral ties, etc. The point here is that they terminated the contract, Maktoum. Again, if you say that the minister lied, because it was only when we received information from the Ministry of Finance that he then came back to us with this information, I would say that is untrue, because on the facts, he did that inquiry long before we even wrote to the Ministry of Finance. Long before we received a response from the Ministry of Finance. And in fact, when he came back to us, he gave us the swift response. He added the letter from controller, because they engaged controller, to know exactly the amount that had been paid by way of the down payment.
But Bank of Ghana had already informed you.
No. We are not written to Bank of Ghana, please. That's your call. No, nobody had written to Bank of Ghana. There was no
finance ministry.
No.
That was the 26th July.
But their inquiry, they got the response on the 21st. This is it. I've read it. You yourself, you have it. He said, I am directed to inquire the following from you as of urgency. Have any funds been transferred into your account from the banks in respect of our agreement dated 9 March 2021, which was terminated on the 14th of July? Then their response was affirmative. They gave a one-word response, affirmative. If the answer to one above is in the affirmative, please let us know how was it transferred, and when same was transferred. These were made via international inward remittance bank transfer, and they've given advance for the initial 300,000 doses. Then subject to the above, the steps you are taking for the refund of the balance as may be applicable. Then they read where you have a problem with. Upon receipt of a formal termination notice from GOG, we will refund the remaining amount for the non-supply doses. But I am saying that you cannot rely on this language to mean that the minister lied by telling us that it is Maktoum that has terminated. I am saying that the minister tendered the signed letter by Maktoum stating that they could not supply. His outfit could not supply. So it couldn't have been that he lied. And this letter was dated 14 July. So consider this as perhaps an error in language use. There's a document that is on their letterhead which you can validate, you can do an inquiry and ask whether the minister, unless you want to suggest that this letter is fake. But you've not suggested that. And I'm saying that it cannot be that you will say that the minister lied by saying that Maktoum has terminated the contract.
Tell me this, Markin.
So that is not the fact.
What do you say? What do you say to the section of the public, including Martin and Kofi Bentil this morning, who insist that the minister must go?
Okay, so first, Martin made a very fundamental mistake in the submission. Why he thinks that the minister must go. He predicated it on two things. On the issue of the snake serum issue, I don't have the full facts. I will not respond to it. But on fronting, you said that the minister lied, that he didn't know anything about it.
Oh, no. No, that's why he didn't know.
Right.
Meaning that he's superintending over a ministry.
But Martin, that is where you are not being fair to the minister. The minister was categorical that the frontier healthcare services thing at the airport was not handled by his ministry. We, as a committee, further probed, and eventually, the evidence was that it was done by the aviation ministry. Aviation ministry brought evidence of the contract, letters to PP and all that. So you cannot make a statement against him that he could not give us appropriate answers when he appeared before us. So please, on that score, take him out of it. Now let's come to Kofi Bento. You see, Mr. Bento,
should the minister go from everything so far?
No, but
from everything so far, Martin, even though you did not recommend in your report, from all you have heard the section of Ghanaians say, should this minister go?
Okay, so let me respond to that.
Great.
Where I sit, the man comes with a story. What is a story? That at a particular point in time, death rates were going up. Infection rates were going up. Government to government sources, bilateral arrangements that had been put in place for supply of vaccines had failed us. They were now talking about 6-month delay. He needed to take action. He needed to make vaccines available for Ghanaians to vaccinate. In the process, he concedes that he relied heavily on the committee that had been put in place to manage this COVID situation. Subsequent to that, he looks out for a private sector sources because all people were promising that we could supply and all that. The minister never said. He engaged the Russian government, and when that failed, he decided to rely on private sources. He never said that. He never said that. Yes, that's the record.
No,
check the transcript.
Okay, apart from the, he had spoken before he went to
never said that.
I need to bring other guests for quick comment before we go to the next issue. So
we have done our work.
Yeah. Why you say
we have done our work?
Go?
We think that in good faith, he meant well. That is one. Two, as a committee, our main concern was in respect of the monies paid for the unsupplied doses. And we made that clear in our recommendation that steps should be taken to recover those funds, which as we speak, we have correspondence. The minister was candid by bringing those correspondence to us, all the letters to them, the request for the bank account and all that. And we have every information that, look, as we speak, the special collection account at Bank of Ghana is in receipt of that amount. The SWIFT is there for anybody to verify. Mr. Bento makes very, very wild allegations, and I think that he should take his time to read the full report.
The minister should not go.
I am saying that Mr. Bento should read the full report, because if you start to say that somebody with a shady character, I mean, to me,
the minister has done no wrong. He has done no wrong. He shouldn't go.
He's entitled to his views, but he should also be measured in certain adjectives he used to describe others.
In the course of the week, did you ask the CSOs to show you a single law that the minister has breached? Did you ask them that question?
Samson, Article 1815.
Did you say they were being emotional and all of that?
Let me respond to you.
Right.
Article 1815 talks about international commercial agreements being approved by coming to Parliament with Parliament necessary modifications.
Yes, the committee concluded that He should have brought it.
I am saying that. What is the consequence of non-compliance? In the CCWL case, the country
City and Country
Waste case with AMA, where the Supreme Court found that, look, the contract did not comply with statute, the Local Government Act, and
the procurement law,
and said that, look, this contract is not valid. That notwithstanding, certain benefits have accrued.
Quantum merit.
Yes.
He said, pay for what they have done.
Very well. Now,
it is the same Supreme Court in the other cases that calls for the monies to be, chased after, including the Woyomi line of cases, right?
I am saying, I am saying that.
Right.
Look at it in context. Services have been provided.
Woyomi also provided services.
I am talking about this case, and then the monies that have been paid. In this case, in Woyomi, you are saying that he provided services, and then what did the Supreme Court say? He said the monies have been paid in.
Yes,
it should be refunded.
Yes, once the contract is void, it says, should we read it to you?
Because of what?
In Balkan, the international arbitration, respecting the Supreme Court of Ghana's decision, went ahead to make orders to the effect that, that notwithstanding, they respect the Supreme Court of Ghana as a final arbiter in the matter. But that notwithstanding, certain services have been provided. The country Ghana has received certain services. To that extent, whatever has been, physically, we know that there's a tangible delivery. Vaccines. On record, the minister said, those going on census, these were the vaccines that were used. All right? Reasonably, flowing therefore. We received the vaccines.
That's the very thing the Supreme Court wants to
I'm saying that we received the, did we receive the vaccine?
That's the very thing the Supreme Court wants to prevent.
So bottom line, your answer to my question, your direct answer to my question is that
I'm coming to the point.
There's no basis for urging him to resign or for him to be sacked.
Samson, question of whether there was a financial loss to the state. My contention was that to the extent that the committee came to a conclusion that there were some funds to be refunded as a result of unsupplied doses, and same have since been refunded, I would not have any basis to argue causing financial loss here. Therefore, it is only when there is a financial loss to the state that we can now say that the minister should be prosecuted.
What do you say to those who say this president is being very terribly weak in this direction, and this is bad governance, not good governance? What do you say to them?
Samson, I am dealing with my report.
No, we are here, we are discussing.
I am saying that I am dealing with my report.
Right.
And you can answer a question like that as a civil society activist. You don't expect me to come and say that that person is expressing...
You don't have a view about what is done to the public purse as regards the conduct of a duty bearer?
Let's situate it. Let not be, you situate it in a context so that I can answer.
Okay, so let's take an example. You remember Jifar Tivo on the bus branding matter?
That's correct.
Okay, and I hosted you guys here so frequently, and even though that 6 million Ghana cedis was refunded, we still piled pressure that she ought to resign, and she had to resign. This is 6 million involved. This one is 16 million involved. What has changed in the circumstances? Do you remember former EC boss, Charlotte Osei? What was her crime, which led to her removal? She was not given an opportunity to resign. She was removed, meaning for the many years she has served from NCC up to the EC, she was asked, go home, not a dime for you. Why? Because she came in, renegotiated one contract, which contract, the evidence admits, she saved the country a whopping $20 million. But you know what her crime was? The finding shows that there was no fraud, there was no cronyism, There was no financial loss because, of course, there was $20 million saved. Her crime was that she did not submit it further for PPA approval. And even to seek for ratification, which is allowed by the law, the PPA boss then, Ejanim Boateng, was of the view that he will not ratify it because she had not met best practices. Not that she had violated any law. Best practices had not been met. What has changed? You and I were all here and we were clamoring. The NPP was doing all the press conferences and we were covering them and bringing you guys in the studio. The principle must remain. Why should Ajiman Menu be treated differently?
Issue of resignation is his personal decision. Issue of termination of appointment is a decision of the appointer, the president. I am looking at a work given to me, and my duty is, as much as possible, deal with issues of inaccuracies arising out of this report. And that is what I am doing, and that is what I will do. We're faced with facts. We've done our recommendation. We've come with our conclusions.
You must have a view, just like you used to
my
do.
My views are contained in the report.
We are going to the next issue to discuss Sagleme.
Listen.
In Sagleme, why is Collins Dada and his friends facing 52 charges? Why is it? Because they have not brought the contract back to Parliament for the changes that they sought to make. Is that not the case?
I have not seen the Collins Dada case. In any event, it's in the court, and I would not make any attempt to comment on something that is in court.
All right.
And the man has his right, in court, and it is supposed to be dealt with by the court.
Okay.
What I have is the report that I have, the recommendation there too, and the outcome of the recommendation.
Right.
These are facts.
Okay.
I noticed that people are coming out with their own misinterpretation here and there. As far as I'm concerned, those must be properly situated, so that we can have a conversation.
Thank you. Let's have. Do we have the NDC's communications director joining us, Officer Sami Jamfi? Do we have you?
Yes, please. I'm on the line.
Okay. Thank you very much. But I need to correct one thing. Honorable Afenyamarkin has said that Kofi Bento had said that the minister was a shady character.
No, I said Sheikh. Sheikh, he was dealing with a shady character. And I said that somebody...
So you didn't say the minister...
No. He said that Sheikh was a shady character. And I'm saying that it cannot be the case.
All right.
That he would use such
adjective
to describe...
He drew my attention to correct that. But he didn't say...
I think he was being
all
unfair.
right. Yeah, Sami, what do you...
Because if he has a shady character...
What do you say on this matter? And guess what? I can predict what you are going to say, but let me give you this warning and caution that we'll play you back if you are lucky to get into government and these things happen and your principles change. We'll play them back to you. What do you say?
That's in order. Let me first of all make the point that this is important for us to have at the back of our mind something you always say at the beginning of this show. You say that this is Newsfile, where we put Ghana first. That's correct, right?
You're right.
So we need to put Ghana first in this conversation on this highly esteemed platform. Again, I want to make the point that, you see, there is a minimum level of sincerity, candor, and consistency required of us as persons who comment on national issues. Okay, we cannot be advocating for one set of rules to be applied to a certain group of people, and when it comes to other people, we advocate for different set of rules to be applied to them, because we all know that we are all subject to the laws of this country and that nobody is above the law. And so what we advocated that should be applied to one person under the same circumstance should be applied to another person, because the circumstances have not changed. What are we discussing here? I don't want to even go into the issues of perjury and whether the minister lied to Parliament and all that. I think Senior Martin Pegbu has done justice to the issues. That anybody who has followed these issues, dispassionately, can attest to that fact. For me, there are two issues I want to focus on. The first is, has there been any violations of the laws of this country? Has there been the commission of offenses in the way and manner government actors or government officials conducted this whole transaction? That, for me, is the first issue we need to interrogate and settle. Then secondly, we need to look at the way and manner this whole transaction was handled by the Minister for Health and the Minister for Finance, and ask ourselves whether they have demonstrated that they have the competence and the integrity that the high offices they occupy demands. Now, if I can start with the first issue I raised, relative to whether or not the laws of this country have been violated in the manner this whole transaction has been handled or conducted. You see something? If a person is caught stealing, and that person, upon being caught, returns stolen items, does that mean that the person is not guilty of stealing? Does that mean that
how is that example appropriate?
That example is appropriate because people want us to accept that the mere fact that monies which were illegally paid under an unlawful agreement has been refunded, exculpates those who entered into that unlawful agreement and made illegal payments of any liability. And I cannot fathom or understand that. Because the mere fact that monies have been refunded doesn't mean that laws have not been breached. It doesn't mean that crimes have not been committed. Section 96 of the Public Financial Management Act of 2016 is very clear. And if I can just read the appropriate subsections, that's subsection 1A and C. It says that a person acting in an office or employment connected with the procurement or control of government stores or the collection, management, or disbursements of amounts in respect of a public fund or a public trust, who, A, makes an unauthorized commitment resulting in a financial obligation for the government. Then the C says, is responsible for any improper payment of public funds or payment of money that is not duly verified in line with existing procedures, commits an offense, and is liable on summary conviction to a term of imprisonment of not less than 6 months and not more than 5 years, or to a fine of not less than 100 penalty units and not more than 2,500 penalty units, or to both. Now, in this case, let's look at subsection 1A. If that person makes an unauthorized commitment resulting in a financial obligation for the government, the vaccine supply agreement entered into between the Ministry of Health and this Dubai sheikh, was it authorized commitment? Was it approved by cabinet or by the president via executive approval? The answer is no. Was it approved by Parliament as required by Article 181, Clause 5 of the 1992 Constitution? The answer is no. Was it executed in compliance with the Public Procurement Act? The answer is a big no, because the public procurement law was not followed as far as this transaction is concerned. So clearly, if you look at Section 96(1)(a) of the PFM, the Public Financial Management Act, that law has been violated. The Minister for Health had no legal authority to, have entered into that transaction. Secondly, the Minister for Finance had no authority to have made payment for this unlawful transaction. And subsection 1C of Section 96
of this act says that a person, who is acting in an office and is dealing with the disbursement of amounts in respect of a public fund, who is responsible for any improper payment of public funds. Now, if you look at the unlawful agreement, which was not in compliance with the public procurement law and was not even approved by Parliament, payment was only supposed to be made under this agreement upon delivery or upon the supply of the vaccine. Here is the case that the finance minister even paid far more than the 20,000 doses which was supplied by the Dubai Sheikh. So the payment was not even in accordance with the terms of the unlawful contract. Even the terms of the unlawful contract were not respected as far as payment made by the finance minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, is concerned. That aside, because the agreement had sinned against the 1992 Constitution, the public procurement law and all that, the finance minister had no basis to advance payment under this unlawful agreement. So we don't have to, argue over this matter. It is so clear. For me, it's an open and shut case that the laws of this country have been violated with impunity by both the finance minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, and the minister for health. Okay? And so these people cannot be allowed to continue to hold the offices they occupy. I hear people say that, and I heard you asking other panelists, I don't, they are sorry, we all make mistakes. Okay, if we all make mistakes, and an apology should suffice under these circumstances, then let's reinstate Charles Osei as the EC chairperson, because we all make mistakes. And let's, overturn the conviction and imprisonment of Mr. Bafuboni and the two others who have been convicted and imprisoned in the NCA trial for breach of the public procurement law. And let Attorney General quickly enter and only prosecute.
I'm not sure that matter is in sync with the way you refer to that matter here, because that matter was a question of fraud, right?
You see, we cannot have one set of rules for NDC officials and a different set of rules for NPP party officials. If this transaction and all these issues had happened under the NDC Mahama regime, what would have been the position of Afenyo Market and our friends in the NPP who are seeking to defend this clearly indefensible matter? So look, the laws of this country have been violated, and the fact that we all make mistakes, the fact that the minister has been apologetic, cannot exculpate him from liability in this matter. Because people, like Mr. Bento said, people have gone to jail for far less. And as we speak, people are being prosecuted.
Thank you.
The same breaches of the public procurement law.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Sami. And we'll return to you on the substantive matter of the Saglime housing debacle, if you like, saga of $200 million. Let me, Kofi, if I can hear you in a minute so that we take a break. In just a minute, what do you say to the issues of governance that are being raised to say that the president is not showing leadership in this regard?
It is extremely disappointing. We all remember the president came on and said he will protect the public purse. It's sad to say, but the president has not only not protected the public purse, this is an example of other things that have happened, which effectively is an emasculation of public institutions aimed at fighting corruption. And I speak as one who has been in the fight, all right, from before him, all the way down to Occupy Ghana, putting in the surcharge and disallowance, strengthening the Auditor General. This president saw to the removal of one of the best Auditor Generals we've had against law, as is our view. Okay, this president has seen to a situation where his minister has failed to respect all the laws, all of them, including not going to cabinet. Now, when you have a situation like this, an irresistible conclusion is that that person is backed by a higher power. So this will reflect very poorly on this president's legacy. As somebody who said he will protect the public purse, he is not protecting the public purse. We were part of the bus branding that you just mentioned. We forced people to resign over these things. I went to court over it with CGM, okay? And we've been fighting these battles. This is the worst we have seen in this fight towards institutional fight against corruption. And on this level, everything that can be breached has been breached. This will be one of those things that will be drummed incessantly going forward. The MPP will always have to answer to it. They will always be reminded of it, and this president's legacy will be stained. There is still some room. But if he goes ahead and makes a joke of it, he goes ahead and does not take a stand on it, he goes ahead and allows this to be as it is, he would have really told us all who are fighting corruption that we are wasting our time.
Something quickly. Kofi is entitled to his views, but
in a minute, just like I gave him.
But the submission that the minister breached the law when he failed to go to cabinet. With respect, there is no such law that demands of the minister to subject a ministerial decision to cabinet.
Why did you make that finding?
Yes.
Your committee, why did you make that finding? That
we never said so. We said that his decision was a ministerial decision. So anybody who argues and says that he breached the law, which law in this country says that
what
the
I
minister...
said is that
no, Kofi,
he was undermining institutions. The minister acts for the president, so he does not necessarily need to go to cabinet. So what he's done effectively means this is the act of the president.
Kofi,
so
you are changing your position.
I'm not talking about the law in terms of cabinet.
Okay.
The laws that were broken are the public procurement and other laws. But if the minister acts, he acts for the president.
Kofi, I heard you.
So that we can.
You said you were giving us all the line of breaches, and you added that his failure to go to cabinet was a breach of the law. And I'm saying that you're entitled to your opinion, but to the extent that you are making this as a legal point, I'm sorry, that is not the law.
All right, thank you. Thank you.
Finally, on the Woyome case that was cited, in Woyome, the Supreme Court found that he did not have a contract at all. It isn't the case that the Woyome case, the facts are the same as what we find ourselves here.
All right.
So don't let us also, in our quest to deal with the matter, throw dust into the eyes of people.
Thank you.
Woyome, the Supreme Court said
you also have a minute. You also have a minute.
Excellent. Okay, let me come on this which law has he breached. You see, in the spirit of transparency and everything, you see even finance minister under the Public Financial Management Act, Section 5, finance minister usually has to seek cabinet, what do you call it, approvals and all that. Look at this. I'm looking at 5C. Okay. Yeah, it says, acting on the advice of the Attorney General and subject to the approval of Parliament, enter into and execute an agreement on behalf of the government of Ghana in relation to matters of a financial nature. But that apart, let me come to B. So it says, in consultation with the Civil Service Council and with the approval of Cabinet, establish structures or units within the ministry necessary to enable the minister discharge responsibility under this act. So financial matters. Now I'm saying that by this parity of reasoning.
Okay, just a minute.
It says that with the approval of Cabinet. So when it comes to this financial matters, finance minister has to seek the approval of Cabinet to establish units and structures to discharge. And so there's a checklist before payments are made. There's a checklist. You check, is there parliamentary approval? Is there cabinet approval?
If
and all the other documents.
Is there parliamentary approval if it's necessary? Is there cabinet approval if it's necessary?
There's a checklist. Go to the ministry.
Is there PPA approval if it's necessary?
There's a checklist. You just don't send one contract or one letter payments.
I was part of this.
So just saying that the cabinet
politically, it may not be a good day. But I am talking about the law. Where you are reading.
Even the violation of the Constitution, there's no...
181.
Then let me come. Then 181.
The law you read.
Say that lastly.
He shouldn't misquote the law and get away with it. Look at the provision. You are wrong.
Clearly.
Martin,
A contract.
Don't risk your reputation. When it comes to the law,
go ahead and
read. A contract, Amidu versus Wayomi. Okay, I've left out the other people.
Yeah.
A contract which breaches Article 181, Clause 5 of the Constitution is null and void, and therefore creates no rights. See Attorney General versus Farouk Atlantic and all the other ones. Then the Supreme Court goes on at 145 to indicate that there should be notice to the Parliament, okay? That, so let me read
but
that.
he's giving you the exception the Supreme Court made in the Country Waste case, where they said, yes, even though it has happened, they have done some work, so let's pay them.
That's a previous case. So in Wyoming case,
they said,
look, they will not likely do that again. And say they are serving notice that it should be clear.
Wyoming did not have a contract.
Please, Mr. Pebu, listen, it said it should be clear to government.
You are not talking law here. This is not you.
But
I'm saying that if you go all emotional, you forget about your law.
Thank you. He just read Wyoming to you. He just read Wyoming.
Wyoming set aside. Are you saying I want your colleagues to listen to you?
He's just read Wyoming.
Did Wyoming set aside
what he's reading? He's reading it from Wyoming. He's only saying that because CCW was first.
Yes. But are you saying it's set aside? No.
All right. Thank you. Let me read some.
Talk the law. You are respected.
Let me read some messages. Then we'll take a break. I'm going to read some messages and then we'll take a break. Collins Little Tete. Okay, thank you. Collins Little Tete says, just because something isn't a lie does not mean that it isn't deceptive. A liar knows that he is a liar, but one who speaks mere portions of truth in order to deceive is a craftsman of destruction. And that's what the health minister has done and must be punished. Papa J. Jr. Elikem says Ajiman Menu lied under oath, and that is a serious case, especially to our democratic lifestyle. Our democratic lifestyle as a country. Then Ellie Wealth, is that your name? Ellie Wealth says these leaders are committing offenses and getting away with it. Stephen Inso says, good morning, Samson. A good leader can only be determined when he or she faces crisis. Now, here is the case that the health minister was unable to think well when he faced the COVID-19 pandemic. He said he wasn't thinking well. He doesn't say that he doesn't think well all the time. This simply means that he is not qualified to occupy the office. Perez Ewenam says, when you come to public to defend a wrong, you find faults with even how people walk about. Then Afe Seaborn says that the president's silence on corruption issues in his government proves what Martin Amidu said, that, quote, he is the mother serpent of corruption. Then we have Charles Rekubrobe at I Tarzan. Says, when gifts become samples which transfigurate into partial supply, we are seriously challenged by changing truth. Babangida Osman says the minister has violated laws, lied on oath, and there are evidence to support this claim. But Mr. Marking, as the chairman of the committee, and to the best of his knowledge, the man is a saint. He hasn't said that. Adote Akai says, how on earth do you expect the mother serpent of corruption to prosecute a baby serpent? That cannot happen. Please focus on other issues. And this is how I'm going to draw the curtain on this subject. It's a very short article written by Dr. Kwame Akufo-Addo in tow. Dr. Kwame Akufo-Addo in tow, writing on this issue and sent this out. He titles it The Goose and the Gander, Unequal and Opposites. He says, my reaction to calls for Ajiman Menu's dismissal has been mixed. I find it amusing on the one hand because of the inactions of his enablers or supporters and the very lame excuses they have so far proffered. On the other hand, I am saddened by the efforts to sacrifice principle on the altar of transactional politics and its unintended consequences on our institutions of governance. Not too long ago, Mrs. Charlotte Osei was Ghana's electoral commissioner. In spite of her robust defense and the public perception of political motivation, she was dismissed by the president for procurement breaches. I suffered a similar fate of having my contract terminated without cause for implementing a law duly passed by the Parliament of Ghana on TV license. Despite overwhelming evidence to the contrary, my board claimed innocence of the policy and, in a shameful public stunt, coordinated with the NMC, got the latter to do government's bidding. There was eloquent silence over the matter by some of those screaming their voices hoarse today. I am not the only one who finds Honorable Ajman Menu's position untenable and regrettable, but I am one of those who is not surprised at the reaction of his political enablers and supporters. Why? Because over time, I have realized that wrongdoing in this country is determined more by the player than the deed. It is for this reason that against global best corporate practice, Dr. K.K. Sapong, the CEO of GMPC, had a public spat with Freddie Blay, his board chair, during which confidential information was freely traded on social media. What was the consequence? None. Similarly, Ms. Frances Esiam, the CEO of Cylinder Company, procured a loan from a bank without her board's approval to pay salaries. When the board queried, she locked them out of the office. The board's legitimate effort to investigate the matter was not only undermined by Mr. Samoa Boateng, the CEO of State Enterprises Commission at the time, the board was rather placed under investigation. Once again, no consequence for the offending CEO. Then the CEO of DVLA was involved in unauthorized collection of fees for drivers seeking services. His action was deemed a minor infraction and forgiven by his godfathers. These happenings demonstrate a number of issues. 1, thou shalt not touch my anointed. 2, irrespective of the gravity of offense, it must give way to political expediency. 3, disregard contrarian voices and frame them as heartless haters. If some politicians are eloquently defending Honorable Ajman Menu in spite of his serious transgressions, it only reinforces the notions I have outlined above. I don't expect the president to fire the minister as he did the Auditor General or the EC boss. And I am uncertain what will become of our public outrage. But whatever happens, I have come to the firm conclusion that under the NPP variant, we have seen an earlier version, the goose and the gander are unequal and opposite. I have lost respect for some, but I refuse to lose hope. From Dr. Kwame Akufo Anof in tow, who was boss of the GBC until he was removed over TV license matters. We'll take a quick break and return to ask whether the $200 million Sagleme saga, what is happening is the usual political chop-chop that has been exposed, or it is the usual political partisan smear campaign that has been activated. We'll be right back.